All right, so I wanted to go over how to lay out a brand style guide, maybe even some sort of document, whatever it is. I just wanted to go through on how to structure and kind of how to create something that is well organized and structured in a way that communicates very clearly what needs to be included on the page. Now, you can use what I'm going to go through for really about anything in design because really I'm going to focus on structuring, but I'm going to show you this from the perspective of a brand style guide. So I have two logos here that I created for a local church. Um, and I'm going to start developing their brand style guide. This can be used for some people call it a brand style guide. Some people call it a brand identity, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, it's basically all the same thing. I'm designing something that's going to communicate with others on how they should use the logo and how they should use the color and what the color is, and just defining different rules and logo usage for whoever it is that's going to be using the logo, whether it's another designer or somebody else in an organization. So the first thing that I want to do is I have my logos in here, but I really want to start kind of developing what the overall structure is going to be. And to do that, I'm going to turn my rulers on. The way that I did, I went to view, rulers, show rulers. I already have my rulers on, so you can either hide them or view rulers and show rulers. I'm going to show them. And from there, I'm going to move my logos out of the way. I'm going to actually hold on, I'm gonna make sure that they're right. Okay. And then I'm just going to move them out of the way and lock them because I don't want to do anything with them. And then I'm going to start structuring this out. The first thing I want to do is I want to give myself an idea of how close I'm okay with getting to the edges of the page, right? The closer we get to the edges of the page, the more likely those things are going to be cut off. And then additionally, we don't want to create tension. Sometimes when we put things too close to the edges of pages, we unintentionally create tension for the viewer because we're getting so close. We don't want that. We want to get as far away from well, not the far away, but we want to give enough space between all of our elements and the actual page itself. The next thing I want to do is I might want to start maybe even putting in some filler boxes just to kind of, you can even think of this as like a wireframe for where I'm going to be placing all the different elements. So I want to say, you know what, I want to put maybe my title, right? I'm going to put a title somewhere at the top because that's where we normally put them. And then maybe even like a subhead I might want to include as well. So again, I'm just kind of starting to lay this out. I want to make sure everything's as even as possible. So I may even bring in additional guidelines to help me make sure everything is structured accordingly. From there, I want to start sectioning kind of what I want to do. So I have the title. I might decide to put the mission, and I might kind of stretch that out to kind of go across the mission of the organization. And then from there, I want to start adding in some of those graphical elements. So I might want to be a section where I'm going over the logo itself. Um, sorry, I forgot to change that. Um, I want to have a section here where I'm going to go over the logo itself. And again, I'm making sure things are aligning as closely as possible. And then I might want to have individual sections here that maybe go over the color palette. And again, I'm holding down shift and I'm just making sure things are just aligning really nicely. Just turn that off. And then from there, I can start actually putting in my elements. So for instance, I want my title to be here, brand style guide. I'm going to go over to my properties panel and I'm going to start utilizing the text. I like that one. I'm actually going to use something. It's really important to use something that actually goes along with the logo itself. So for instance, I know that the logo I used this font, so I want to kind of replicate that and use that in other places as well. I want it to be a lot bigger. I'm gonna make that bigger. I really want to fill this space. Right, and then from there, I'm going to reposition it so it kind of really aligns within that little box that I kind of created here. Right, and then I can kind of get rid of that box. And now with that being big, and seeing how big it is, I kind of want to make this a little bit bigger just so that it's not so small. And then I'm going to start adding in maybe brand style guide, maybe a little blurb like, um, oh, you can't see it because it's too big in here. Guiding the use of the logo. Do I want it as big as that? I'm not sure. A bit bigger. And maybe I don't want it black because I want there to be, not that the color black, sorry, the size that it is. I kind of want there to be, um, then I'm going to align that right there. So now you can see that I'm already starting to kind of, create this overall design. And again, it's very structured. It's very well organized because I'm utilizing the rulers, right? I'm utilizing these guidelines and I'm utilizing some of these boxes I created just to house different where I might place things. I'm kind of already pre-planning where I'm going to start placing some of these elements. I'm just going to bring them up, right? And then now I can start placing some of my other elements here. But notice that I need to have titles. That's just going to further help my viewer understand where what section they're looking at. Logo options. And notice that I'm trying to be consistent in my design choices in terms of my typography. So, I may not want it as big as the title and the subhead, but I definitely want to replicate some of these other things that I've also created, or also made the decision on. So I'm going to use this one is in Avenir Black. So I'm going to use this as Avenir Black, but I'm going to have it smaller so that there's a difference in, I don't think I spelled guiding right. Um, Maybe I did spell it right. I'll look at that later. So right there, I'm going to have that. I do like the idea of having this box here. So I might want to actually use it. I'm just going to maybe change up the color, but notice that they're black. So I need to make sure that whatever color I choose, um, it's a lighter version of it, whether that's changing the actual color itself or lowering the opacity so that there is a good contrast between the colors that I'm using. Now, I don't know if I want to use blue there or I want to use that color just because I'm going to be having, I think that's nice because I'm going to be having color here. Now, notice that when I first put those here, I just said, hey, this is kind of the area where I want to put my color swatches, but I noticed, oh, you know what? I do need to have my some type of header there. And again, I just copy this by holding down. I have the Alt key on my keyboard. It might be a different key for you. For me, it's Alt. When I click that, my arrow changes, my black arrow changes to two arrows. And then when I click and drag, I click and drag it, it'll create a duplicate. If I hold down Shift, it'll keep it parallel with the original that I took it from. And that's what I did when I let go. It'll be placed there. And I did that on purpose so that it would um, what's the word I want to use? Aligned with, I'm going to add another line here just so I can continue to stay aligned consistently with both this title, but then also with some of these other areas as well. Color palette, right? And then now I'm going to start adding in my color palette. I don't know that I necessarily want the boxes. I think I want to do circles for this. So again, something that I'm doing is I'm holding down shift when I'm creating my circle, so it makes a perfect circle. I'm going to hold down the space bar so that I can move it and get it to be aligned exactly where I want it to be. I'm going to let go of the space bar, but I'm going to keep my shift finger down while I'm clicking still so that I can enlarge it. And then I'm going to let go, and it's going to be a perfect circle that is aligned within the box that I created. And then from there, I'm going to start picking the color scheme that I'm working with. This organization works with a really light teal, right? And then notice that, a lot of times when you're working with brand style guides, they give you the code. Well, if you're working in Illustrator, the code's right here. I'm just going to copy and paste this code here, or I'm just going to copy down what that code says. So CMYK, so the C is 61.96, the M is 3.53. I'm actually going to write it down so that I can rewrite it up there. And I'm going to write down the hex code as well. So we have CMYK. I'm just writing it down on a piece of paper in front of me so that I can write it again. This little code here where the little you might see it as a hashtag, but it's a pound sign. That's the hex code. You're going to need to include that as well. So I'm going to write down the pound, and then I'm going to write down what that code is. Now, if I wanted to go RGB, I can change it to RGB, and then I can also get that code as well if I want to include all three of these. If you're working primarily on a website, you might just really need to show the hex code. But if you're going to be creating something that different mediums will be using, it is nice for whoever that designer is to have um, the codes for each one. So because this isn't a title, I'm going to be changing the text to medium, and I don't want it to be in all caps either because all caps does not work when you have multiple uh when you have a lot of different text going on. So like paragraphs and things like that, uh it's not consistent to have, or it doesn't read well when everything is in all caps. It can be actually very hard to read depending on the font choices and how close you are. So it's always a good practice to, if you're going to be having a lot of, actually like this without the, um, if you're going to be having a lot of, oops, text, right? It's probably better just to have it all in lowercase. And then you can decide on how you want to specifically display your code. I'm going to have RGB first. Then I'll have C, Y, no, sorry, CM, Y. I'm going to probably display this differently because I don't know that it's reading the way that I want it to read. And then the hex code. Whoops. I'm going to get rid of that box soon enough. And it's 308 EB1. So I want to distinguish between all of these. So I might up that. I'm going to do my little dropper tool so that I can copy that, get closer. Oops, it's not working. Black. Just going to center there. I want to add a little bit of hierarchy and emphasis so that my viewer can tell the difference of what I'm showing them. I have to do this one, but it's hidden. There you go. So I'm gonna have it displayed like that for now. I might change up the way I'm displaying it. I might add the colon, kind of like the colon there. That's too far. I have to make this box bigger, but overall, there you go. And then my next color is probably just going to be black because that's what this uses. And again, on my CMYK, I want it true black though. It's going to be zeros. So it's 000. It's all zeros. So fun fact, if you're working with all black, it's going to probably be 000 or all 100s per each one. So I'm actually going to duplicate this section so that again, and you know what? I want to make sure it's evenly placed. I have my smart guides on too, so they're popping up for me. And if you need to know how to turn on smart guides, view guides, and you can put smart guides on. Mine are already on. There we go. Sorry. View smart guides. Mine are already on. So they'll help you out. If you don't have those on, definitely turn them on. They definitely help. And then from there, I'm just going to update this. This is true black. So this is what true black looks like every single time. If there was a little gray in it, these numbers would be slightly different, but because it's true black, um, oops, this is just how it's. There you go. That's true black. And it's funny because white is going to probably be the opposite, which is going to be my other one. So I'm actually going to just, and again, I held down the Alt. I clicked, held down Alt, which changed my mouse. And then when I clicked on it, I held down the Shift button so that it would automatically stay aligned and just shift down perfectly aligned. I'm actually going to do this so that you can see that it's white. And then from there again, white, it's 0. CMYK is 0 as well, but it's the hex code is actually 6Fs. Oops, I got this wrong. Should be 0. Oops. It's backwards for this. So that one is correct. Yep. Okay. Right. And there is everything. And then from there, I can actually start getting rid of some of the boxes that I had in place. And again, notice that I'm gonna put some filler text here just because there you go. I don't have what this is gonna say right off the top of my head. But again, oops, I want this to be medium and I'm gonna scale it down because I don't want it to compete. And again, this is filler text. You're not meant to know what it says. So if you can't read it, that's okay. And I actually want to add in some dividers just to also enhance the overall structure of this. I'm going to just make sure it's really clear, you know, each section, right? And I might even put in a title for this. And this is filler text. So this is just telling me kind of this is just the area I want text in. It wouldn't actually look like this. Right? So this is how I'm structuring out this page. Um, this is one of the logo options. I might want to display this differently, and I might even want to add in different, different options. And this is where your creativity can kind of come in, how you want to display the logo and everything. But notice that again, everything I try to keep the structure fairly consistent. Um, and then I also am trying to have everything evenly distributed. Right? Maybe I want to show what it's going to look like on different pages. Oops. And I'm going to select all three of these. And again, structure. I want everything aligned um, as evenly as possible. So again, I have smart guides on, so they're helping me with understanding kind of how I might want to do this. There you go. So these are my logo options. This is my color palette. And on the next page, I can do something very similar. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to copy the way that the header is, and I'm going to paste in place so that it all kind of lays out in a way that's really easy to use. And then I might start putting in, again, different boxes to kind of showcase maybe other elements that I might want to showcase, whether it's imagery, right? So maybe it's different imagery, and I'm going to get rid of some of these lines. I don't need them anymore. The way I might want to show different images that follow along with um, the brand itself, you know, maybe I want this to vary in size. And again, I'm just planning at this point, knowing that this all might slightly change depending on what I have in here, right? And eventually I'm going to probably put like images in them. So let's pretend those are images, right? I'm going to take one of these. I'm just going to copy it and right? Imagery. I'm just going to put imagery. So let's pretend I put photos there, but like what would I put up here at the top? Maybe I want to put some examples of the typography that I'm using, right? So again, I want to make sure that I'm aligning everything nicely. Typography. And then from there, I can start adding in what that typography is going to be. It's Avenir, actually, it's Avenir. Veneer, let me see specifically, it's called yeah, just Avenir. Medium, medium, and then it's Avenir bold or heavy. Which one I'm using for this one? Black. Well, it's wrong on both counts. Actually, I'm gonna make this its own text box. And then the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, right? And then I'm going to have that displayed again, but I want it in a lowercase, so I'm going to change the case of this to be, where is it? Here, type. Why is it making me my options? Oh, here it is. Change case, lowercase. I'll have to rewrite that one again, and I'm also going to edit. This is way too far down. So this is called the leading, the space between the space between each line of text is known as the leading. I'm actually going to put this lower because I do want there to be some hierarchy. And then I am going to do the same thing. I'm just going to change the font of it to Avenir Black because I have other things. And again, this is what I've used in this document, but the reason why I am also um, putting this in here is because that's the font that I also used for the logo itself. So it's not the font that you're specifically using necessarily in the brand style guide. It's the actual font that you are using in the logo. And if it's for like a website, it's where you're using it in the website, the type of font you might be using in the website. And then this section, I might add a little graphical element here just so people know kind of what that's supposed to look like. Oops, cancel. And I'm going to make it so it fits nicely, but I feel like this is missing something, right? This is just me adding in a graphical element. Arrange, send to back. Case. Why is it not doing that? Probably because I have it all. Yes. There you go. I'm actually going to create shift. What is that? Command, the letter O. It's going to make my text into a shape rather than just the letters. So I can use them as shapes rather than traditionally as letters, but I can't click in here and edit them. So I'm going to use that as that. Let's pretend like there's imagery here, and this is where I'm going to have graphical elements, right? I had a period at the bottom. I don't know why I did that. And then from there, I might have, buttons. This is how I might display buttons if this is for a website. And I'm going to start using the color that I've defined, right? Range, bring to front, I don't know, donate. Let's pretend that's what I wanted to say. I'm going to make it white because I'm giving now, I'm showing them kind of what my graphical elements are going to be like. I actually want to center this. I'm going to have that center alignment, and that way I can center it perfectly within that button. Donate, but then I might want to have another option of donating. Maybe I want that black. And then the text says learn more. Maybe I have it in blue. Oops. Right. And then other graphical elements I might have might be what my social media icons are going to look like, which I don't have them right now, but I'm just going to put these circles here as a placeholder for what that's going to look like. Right. And then from there, I'm starting to lay out my brand style guide. And I want you to notice too is that one of the biggest things about graphic design as a whole, but specifically when you are designing whatever it is, honestly, as you're designing, I would say definitely graphic design as a whole, you need structure. And that's something that we tend to forget that we need is that we need to show our viewer that everything is well organized and nothing was just thrown on the page for the sake of throwing it on the page. And I know I'm not saying that, oh, that's what you guys are doing. I'm saying is we never want that to come off as that's what we're doing, right? We always want to make sure that everything we design is designed in a way where we kind of stopped and we planned it out and we thought everything out. And that's why, having, structure and using grids and guidelines is so incredibly important because it shows that we took the time to really try to understand where we were going to put everything and how it was all going to work together. So I just want to show you kind of that almost finished result. Now, again, these boxes I would have placed images in. I don't have the images right now, but this is just to give you an idea of what this would all look like. I could also add other graphical elements to this so that it's just not, white on the page, right? I could, add some type of, um, you know, I'm just creating a quick background graphic, right? Range, send to back, right? And that way, when these are looked at, they're starting to have more of a, they're anchored a little bit. Range, send it back. I'm going to get rid of these too big. View, trim view, right? And now my graphical elements, right, are starting to overall range, right? And now you're seeing that now my elements are starting to, there's a rhyme and the reason to them, right? I'm starting to kind of, I anchor the pages by making sure that I have enough space. And then even when I'm looking at this as a whole, I'm noticing, I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't think I have enough space here. So as I'm going through, I can start adjusting so that I have more space between each of my elements, right? Like this is too close to the bottom. I need to space this out a little nicer, right? And this is just so that I don't get too close to other elements. And I'm also just using the page, right? That's a little bit better. So overall, notice that there's a lot of structure to my pages, right? There's a lot of structure, there's a lot of organization. That's incredibly important when you are designing, especially when you're designing with so much content. There's so many things that you might need to kind of keep track of that it's important to make sure that you have all the right um, elements in place. And to do that, you really may have to um, you know, create grids, guidelines, right? To really show, your structure. I'm actually looking at mine as a whole and I'm thinking, oh, you know what? This needs a little bit more work. So I'm just going to do that. Actually, just gonna bring that down just a little bit. And I want to bring this over well as well. And there you go. So again, very structured, very well organized, and I could even brand it as well, right? Right. Final touch. I could probably add maybe some more things, contact information on the bottom of each page, right? A little footer. I could even work with, upping the difference in some of the typography, right? There's definitely some things I can still work on. Like this, I'd probably align this a little bit better just to bring a little bit more order and organization. But again, overall, my brand style guide, there's a lot of structure, a lot of organization, and I was able to do that because of the grids, of the guidelines, and because I planned it out. I didn't just start slapping things on a page. I already had planned out where it was all going to go by using just empty boxes and my grids and my guidelines. And I made sure everything was consistent in how, consistent in my typography choices, right? I decided all of my section headers, right? They were all going to be the same size, the same font, and the same weight. All of my, paragraphs or other text, right? It was all going to be the same size, the same font, and the same weight, unless I needed to show some sort of hierarchy. And then I just, changed up the overall weight of it. But again, this is extremely important to show, hey, like I can, I need to bring this out a little bit. I can create something that is well organized, right? And also helps the viewer flow through. The viewer can flow through this because everything is so well organized and really does have its place. So again, this is, when you are designing, whether it's a brand style guide or a web page, right? When we're designing what a web page might look like or a user persona, again, we want to make sure there's order and there's structure. So even that, I'm going to, use, let's say, I was doing some research for this and I wanted to create a user persona, right? For maybe a target audience, right? User persona. I'm just going to kind of somewhat use the same template. Um, you know, the millennial. I think I spelled that wrong, but whatever. The millennial, right? And then now I can start thinking, okay, well, what information do I want to include, right? Maybe, I'm gonna demographic demographics, right? Maybe I'm including demographics about this age group. I'm going to delete some of the elements because they don't make sense for me to keep them. Um, or maybe I do. Maybe I want this to say, age. And, it's definitely important as well to remember too, is that, when you are designing for a brand, you want to be consistent in your design choices. I created the brand style guide. So to create the brand style guide and then decide, oh, everything else is going to look extremely different, that makes no sense, right? That is confusing, especially for the brand themselves of, okay, well, what's our style, right? So to create, when you are creating something for one brand, it's important that you kind of almost use what you've already created. That way you can kind of stay consistent across the board, right? Between 30, 30, between, 20 years old and 35 years old. I don't know. I'm making things up. Um, Probably because I myself am 34 and I'm a millennial, right? So, maybe that's that. Um, you know, Job, I want to keep them short, right? Job, mid-level mid-level executive or small business owner. I don't know, I'm making it up. uh, It might be too big of a word, but I'm just gonna go with it for now. You guys are seeing that I'm not that great at spelling. I might want to change that to something else. Like, is there another three-letter word for location? Let's see. For consistency reasons, I wish I could think of a three-letter word, but I can't, so I'm just gonna put I'm gonna put, let's see, East Coast, New Jersey. And again, I'm making sure that I am staying very well organized, right? Um, Maybe I'll put like this is the overview of who I don't have the text for this. This is like the demographical information. What else did you guys put in there? The not just the demographics, but the psychographics. Don't come for me. I am bad at spelling. There's an H somewhere in there. That looks almost. You would definitely run a spell. You would definitely spell check yourself. Make sure everything is translating correctly and spelled correctly. I'm not gonna worry about that right now because I'm really just showing you guys maybe a layout, and then from there, I have my demographics, but maybe I don't need to have I'm actually gonna fill this pile with filler text. Insert placeholder text. I call it filler text. It's placeholder text. I'm used to calling it filler for some reason. I'm going to change again. I want to be consistent. I might want to say, oh, this section is going to be bullet points. I'm going to add in my bullet points. Now, this is definitely something that I want to show you guys. I'm adding my bullet points, but notice how even though my bullet point starts here and my text starts there, the line down here starts where that bullet point starts. I don't like that. Window, let's see. Do I have that here? I know I have it yeah, tabs. Here we go. Boom. This is how we can kind of edit where our text starts and when it ends. So if this is, all right, if this is where my text starts right all the way along the side, of the text box, right? When I put this ruler up that kind of aligns there, these little lines here can tell me where I want my indent to start. I want my indent. I don't know what. I want my indentation to start right here where the beginning of my next word starts. And I'll show you what that looks like. Now I'm hitting Shift Enter, and then I'm hitting the tab button. Shift Enter Tab. 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 Shift Enter and then Tab. Shift Enter Tab. And something to also know is that I'm holding down Shift and then I'm hitting Enter. I'm releasing, and then I am hitting the Tab button on my keyboard. And because of this little tab, tab tool that I have, it now all aligns evenly so that again, I can add a little bit more consistency to my user persona, right? And if I wanted to add an image to this, I can definitely add an image to this. Oh, maybe I didn't want to add, oh, the name, right? Ashley Killen, right? That's my name. If I wanted to add a picture to this, I can add a picture to this. It feels very heavy here, so I might want to add it on this side. Again, this is balance. I want to balance out this design as much as I can. Because I'm using filler text, I can change what it says, but if your text doesn't fit, you would have to, move some things around so it does fit. And then from there, I can maybe possibly, maybe I'm moving this here, each bring to front, make smaller, right? Because I want to keep this branded. And then maybe this is a section where I am adding in my image. Let's see. I know I have a profile picture. This is an old one. Profile. Nope. Mm, I had one. The newest one. If not, I'll use my old one. You know what? I think I have it as new. No. All right, I'm just gonna use profile. Let's say this is the one I'm using. I can use that here. Right. Might be a little too big. I have some circles in here, so I might want to use that. I might create a little clipping mask. Have my image there, but then I'm going to put that circle over top. I'm going to select both. I'm going to make sure so both the circle and my picture is selected. And then I'm going to go over here to Pathfinder and I'm going to click, which one is it? That's not it. I think my picture needs to be in the front. I do this every time. You can also do create clipping mask. Bring to the front. Let me select both. Why is it not working? Make clipping mask. Arrange, send it back. There we go. Right click. Make clipping mask. There you go. Oops. And now there's a picture of me. If I wanted to add more, let's say I wanted to add more to this, right? There you go. Now this is my user persona. I feel like the top part here is a little, it's a little tight. So I kind of want to open that up a little bit. And again, because I've structured this out, I have that space to do that. So this is my user persona. And if you look, everything kind of goes with each other, right? I'm kind of going off of the same style, right? The same aesthetic over and over and over again so that I can remain consistent in my design choices. I probably don't need to have this that long. There you go. There's my user persona. Now I want to create a journey map, right? Again, I want to make sure there's structure to this, you know? So from there, I'm going to create a journey map. My journey map, I kind of want to show the 4 stages. I'm going to get rid of some of these things, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I can get rid of all this. I might keep that. I'm going to do journey map. Arrange, bring to front, you know, service times. That is, I'm putting here, this is a journey map, and what am I kind of, what mapping am I doing in the sense of like, what am I thinking they're going to be doing with our website, right? She's gonna, this is a church, so she's going to be looking for service times, right? That's going to be the journey that we're going to take her. I'm going to check for her. I'm going to include a blurb about her so that we remember who we're looking up. But each one of these, I'm going to make sure, right? And I'm going to change what all of these say. But I'm going to make sure that everything is evenly distributed and evenly placed. I'm going to make this small. Oops. Make this smaller. Go. This would be some type of design, an element. Let's see. What are the different stages? Different stages of a journey map. Let's get something simple. All right, so maybe she is, let's see. So let's say access, choose, oops. I'm looking at journey maps right now. Share, oops. Attend. So maybe that's kind of her flow. She's going to access the website and navigate to her and navigate to where the times are and the location. Let's say there's multiple locations. She's going to choose the location she wants to go to. If she's going with her family, right? She's a millennial. She might have a family. I'd probably note that too, like in the psychographics, or even the demographics. I might, include the fact that she has a family. And then I'm going to make sure. I'm just going to make sure again. I want to make sure everything is very well structured and very well organized. I'm actually going to group all this. I'm going to group each one of my sections together because I also want to distribute all of this evenly. I'm going to be really using my alignment. I can actually get rid of these two lines here, right? Attend, right? And again, I'm going to add in information. I'm just going to use this as text holder. This is going to, each of these is going to, whoops, this is going to all discuss what she's doing in each one of these steps. Now I have extra spaces between all this because placeholder text, that's a lot. I just want to do a little bit here and there. This will explain like what she's going to be going through. Oops. Just want to make sure it's evenly distributed. Now, you may not have exactly all the same thing in each of these, right? I might shorten this. I'm just going to shorten this so you can see the difference in their lengths, because some might be longer than others, right? It may not all be perfect. But again, something else that I want to do is I want to make sure that everything is aligned. So I'm going to make sure I select the areas that it's in. I'm going to make sure everything is aligned evenly. I'm going to make sure that my boxes are big enough so we don't have these awkward rags. I want to make sure they're all, and again, I'm adding just a lot of structure and organization to this. Oops. And then again, I think that's good. Arrange. Send it back. I move this out of the way. Right, and this is my user journey map. Again, very structured, nothing's too close to the edges. I have a lot of space. I'm looking around. I don't think I'm as centered as I want to be. Bam, there you go. I might add some other elements to this just to show that I am right. Maybe I want to do something like that. Eh. There you go. I'm just using my pen tool to place where I want my points to be. Right, and then I'm going to go over here to my anchor tool and I'm going to make them into, oops. Hold on. Let's see. Right, and there's definitely an easier way to do this that makes it a little bit more uniform. There could be also other things that you might find that work better for you. There is another way to do this. Can I find, where is it under? Number, I like that better. It's just me making a line that I like. Just a little bit more, just where I want it to be. All right, that's a little bit better. I would definitely work on that. There's definitely areas that I don't like. Maybe this tool. Yeah, that's way better. Let's say this is I'm just showing kind of the journey they're going on. I'm gonna up this. I'm gonna change. I want it dashed. I'm gonna change the stroke of this a little bit more. You know, I might not want it uniformed. I kind of really do want it to be like a kind of up and over type of thing. right? I think I'm going to add a little, some text here that, oops. I'm gonna add a little start. I want it to be smaller because again, hierarchy, I want my titles to stand out more and it's at 15. So I definitely have room to make this smaller. 10, that's good. I'm gonna have start and I'm gonna have finish. Finish. And I'm actually going to make this end at a different place. There you go. I kind of want to add a little bit another line right here. And then I want to delete this one. So there you go. There you go. Again, very even. I'm gonna bring these, you know what? I'm gonna ungroup them so that I can edit these a little bit better. And again, I'm just kind of going through this. I want them to be a little bit more even. I don't want them to be so close. So this is kind of, my journey map. I'm showing how they're accessing, choosing, sharing, and then attending, right? This is how I'm getting them to journey through my website and eventually do the thing that I want them to do. And I might add some more information, right? I might add a little bit of blurb about them just to give the client, right, a little bit more information about who this is, right? And I get that directly from the user persona that I created, just so that they can get a better understanding of who it is that we're talking about. And it wouldn't be as long either. It would definitely be shorter. Just a blurb about who they are, right? And this is definitely going to be smaller too. So I probably make it like 10. There you go. And it may not even be like that. It might be millennial, millennial, age 34, New Jersey, right? And that might be like the extent of it. Like that's the information they're getting and nothing more than that. And then I can make this a little bit smaller. Right? And there you go. And I might even move this down more. And in each one of these boxes, I would create some type of graphical element that goes along with each one of these sections. Access, right? I might make a little website icon. Choose, I might, have a mouse clicking something. Share, I might have that little symbol for when you like, the symbol for like an arrow going there, share, and then attend, I might have a little building or, yeah, a little building, right? So the icon would go along with whatever it is that I am, um, talking about in each one of these. So just to give you guys a good understanding of kind of what I created here, I created 3 different documents. So this needs to be in the front. I created 3 I created 3 different documents. I created a brand style guide that's 2 pages long. I created a user persona page and I created a journey map page, right? Up from that user persona. Something that I want you guys to notice is the consistency throughout, right? I was consistent in my design choices individually, right? Individually on each page, within each, project, right? Brand style guide, I was consistent in my Typography choices, I was consistent in how I laid it out, and my alignment was consistent throughout. I used grids and guidelines to design all of it, and even some of the graphical elements that I included, I was consistent throughout. I was consistent in where I placed the logo, the title. I was just really consistent in those specific areas. And then once I developed that, I was able to kind of look at the user persona, the journey map, and say, you know what, I know the type of design in terms of the overall aesthetic. I just need to know where I'm putting everything. And again, I planned everything out too, based on what I did before. I knew, okay, some of these um, grids and guidelines, right? I can use those again. I can use the same elements. And I just built off of the things that I had already previously designed, making sure that I remained consistent in my design choices. Again, the typography, the sizing of things, how everything was laid out, the alignment, just overall really making sure I'm adding a lot of structure and organization to the overall design so nothing looks haphazardly, right? I didn't just throw this at the page and hopefully it sticks. No, I made sure that everything was done intentionally so that it would all match and kind of connect with each other, right? And then when you kind of take a step back and you look at all of this, you can tell, hey, this was not just done by the same designer, but it's also for the same company, right? You can tell that this was all the same company. If you saw the brand style guide and then the user persona and then the journey map, and someone said, hey, what goes with this company, you'd be able to group them all together because they're consistent in the way that they're designed, not just in the structure, but some of those design elements as well. Let's think about the principles of design, right? The house principles, hierarchy. I made sure the titles were the largest thing on the page. I made sure that each section title, there was a difference between the section titles and the paragraphs, right? I made sure that the elements I really wanted you to see were larger or bolder, right? Alignment, everything is aligned to the right. Everything is consistently aligned. Where I made sure I used the align palette to make sure everything was aligned consistently. Unity, right? Again, unity in the typography choices, I was consistent. In my color choices, I was consistent in the graphical elements I used, I was consistent in their style. And then space, I made sure that everything was really spaced out and had enough space around it. Nothing gets too close to the edge, nothing gets too close to the other elements, right? If you're looking at the background and thinking, oh, some things get close to the background, well, that's the background. That's different. You use that as the back of the page and not where the elements necessarily need to go. But and again, I could definitely, adjust some areas here and there. Some areas probably get a little too close, and I can go in there and kind of adjust things as needed. But ultimately, spacing wise, nothing gets too close to the edge of the page. Nothing is at risk of getting cut off. And again, I use grids and guidelines to ensure I left myself enough room to work with before I got too close to the edges. And I worked within those boundaries that I kind of set for myself. And zooming in and out, I'm also noticing that I could definitely move things over a little bit more as well, and even give more space in certain areas just to open it up. But ultimately, there's enough space around everything so your eyes can really stop and absorb the information I'm trying to give to you, without being overwhelming or leaving awkward, empty areas, right? Everything is just consistently placed evenly, right? Hierarchy, alignment, unity, space. I made sure that I incorporated all of that and I remained consistent in those design choices. I really hope this is helpful. If you have questions, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to kind of lead you guys and give you guys more information.